In 1248, Chepstow Castle passed to Roger Bigod, the 4th Earl of Norfolk and the son of Maud, the last of the Marshal siblings. In 1270, his nephew, also called Roger Bigod, the 5th Earl of Norfolk, inherited Chepstow and began an ambitious building programme. He began with the domestic accommodation in the Lower Bailey. The fine windows in the large kitchen reflect the importance of hospitality in the Earl's household. Produce was winched up to the kitchen from boats below. Waste was thrown into the river through drain holes. The service passage linked the stores, kitchen and dining hall. Wine and locally brewed ale were winched up from boats to this finely vaulted cellar. Just off the stairs leading down to the cellar is a small enclosed platform, which was possibly a tiny garden for the lord and his guests to admire the river views. This finely decorated great hall was built by Roger Bigod for entertaining and ceremonial. From a dais, the lord and his guests sat at a table overlooking the rest of the household. Three doorways lead from the service area. A stairway led from the hall to Bigod's private chamber. At the base of the cliff, below the gallery, is a circular stone cistern, which collected water for the castle from a natural spring in the cliff. King Edward I visited Chepstow Castle in 1284 after his successful conquest of Wales. Shortly afterwards, Martin's Tower was begun. Built by Roger Bigod in 1293, Martin's Tower, with its grand private rooms, was probably intended as a guest suite for the king. All three accesses had a portcullis, allowing the tower to be isolated from the rest of the castle. After Roger Bigod's death in 1306, Chepstow Castle passed to the Crown. 200 years later, in 1507, Chepstow Castle was given to Charles Somerset, the first Earl of Worcester, and a cousin of Henry VII. As Lord Chamberlain to Henry VIII, Charles Somerset paved the way for the Field of the Cloth of Gold by negotiating a truce with France. Charles Somerset relocated the 200-year-old private apartments from the service end of the Hall Range to a splendid new complex of buildings on either side of the wall between the lower and middle baileys. Charles Somerset also introduced new Tudor-style windows and fireplaces into Martin's Tower. In 1642, Henry, the fifth Earl of Worcester, sided with Charles I. 3 years later, Chepstow was taken over by the parliamentarians, who breached the south curtain wall by Martin's Tower. In 1650, Chepstow Castle was converted into a military barracks and became a prison for political dissidents. After the Restoration in 1660, Lord Herbert, son of the Marquis of Worcester, was appointed governor. Repairs were made to the castle, and a gun port was installed in the south curtain wall. The prison now housed those who were thought to be a threat to the king, and included Henry Marten, who had signed Charles I's death warrant. During the 18th century, the Lower Bailey became an industrial estate, and the castle became a destination for tourists, including J.M.W. Turner. During the 19th century, the industrial works were removed, and conservation of the fabric began. After the Second World War, the state took over guardianship of the castle.